Revealed, 10 sinister lake house horrors that will haunt you. Disturbing true stories exposed. Hannah had heard whispers of the lake's secret past, the horrors that lurked beneath its surface. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a place to weave a bond with her son, Oliver, among towering pines that stretched up toward a solemn sky. Instead, as they pulled into the gravel driveway of her estranged father's decrepit cabin, the unease curled around her like a creeping fog. The cabin stood, weather-beaten and cloaked in shadow, a relic of forgotten family gatherings and unspoken tensions. The dark windows felt like eyes, watching, waiting. The moment they stepped inside, a chill settled over them. Dust layered every surface like lossy memories, and the air carried a faint scent of mildew and something metallic. In a bedroom drawer, they uncovered faded photographs. Family members grinned at the camera, but their smiles seemed to hold an unsettling secret, frozen in time, hinting at joy tainted by something dark. "Mom, why do they look so weird?" Oliver asked, his innocent voice cutting through the silence. "I don't know, sweetie," she replied, a knot tightening in her stomach. That night, as they attempted to enjoy a nervous dinner, her phone buzzed violently against the table. Anonymous messages flooded her screen. "They're watching. Don't trust the lake." Panic murked beneath her skin, but she dismissed it as a prank. "Just spam," she said, trying to ease Oliver's widening eyes. But deep in her chest, dread began to squeeze tighter. As shadows fell primitive and deep around them, strange sounds echoed from the water. Whispers danced on the night air, and splashes resonated, ricocheting off the trees. "Did you hear that?" Hannah whispered, heart racing. Oliver nodded, wide-eyed, drawing closer to her side. Sleep eluded them that night, the eerie whispers growing louder, a siren song beckoning from the dark depths of the lake. Morning arrived, the sun shedding light on their growing unease. The neighbors greeted her with wary glances, their laughter stopping suddenly when she approached. It felt as if the very ground beneath her was conspiring against her. She approached the sheriff about the texts, but he scoffed, brushing her off as a city girl spooked by rural life. "Nothing to worry about, ma'am." She felt like a moth bathed in the heat of peril, already singed, ready to flee. Days blurred as Oliver was drawn further into the cabin's strange fold. Hannah noticed peculiar symbols carved into the wooden beams as she cleaned a wrestling grip of warping folklore and familial guilt. The whispers twisted deeper into her mind. Then one evening, the flickering lights along the lake caught Oliver's eye. She turned just in time to see him dart into the night, and panic surged like ice through her veins. "Oliver!" she screamed, racing into the shadows. Heart pounding, she followed the trail of whispering winds to the lake's edge. A dark silhouette hovered there, an ominous figure bending over the water, its presence like a dark fog. "Come here," she yelled, but her voice could only tremble against the stillness. As she strained to catch a glimpse of her son, she heard the whispers become a cacophony, drawing Oliver closer into their sinister embrace. "Hannah," came the neighbor's voice, a rarity in the night's enclosing strange hush. The watchers are stirred. The realization crashed over her. This lake held secrets that demanded lives. Lives lost in the name of haunting. What price would she pay to uncover the truth and pull her son from the brink? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Terror twisted in her stomach as she turned back toward the cabin. What past had her father been tangled in? And how had he vanished from her life, leaving this burden behind? As dawn broke over the horizon, shadows conspired against her, the chilling awareness crawling back into her mind. The lake wasn't just watching, it was waiting to claim. And along with her son, it threatened to consume her too. Hannah stood at the water's edge, her heart thundering against her ribs. The silhouette at the lake, an unsettling figure wrapped in darkness, vanished as quickly as it had appeared. "Oliver," she called again, fear ripping through her. The wind tossed her words into the night, but her son did not respond. The creeping shadows wrapped around her, tightening like a noose. She turned, scanning frantically for any sign of him. Panic clawed at her throat as she dove into the trees, branches clawing at her arms like the hands of long-lost spirits. Where could he have gone? Then she heard it again, the whispers. A distorted, haunting melody like a child's lullaby weaving through the pines. It beckoned to her, mingling with the low slosh of the lake. Just as she thought to scream for Oliver once more, she felt something tug at her leg, a wet tendril, cold and clammy. Hannah jumped back, her breath catching. In the depths of the water, a pale, skeletal hand emerged, grasping for purchase at the bank. She stumbled backward, awash with terror, and in that instant, her phone buzzed again. She tore it from her pocket. Danger is close. Run. The message was different this time, urgent. The screen showed a message had come in an expletive-filled rant on the dangers of the lake. But she didn't have time to ponder if it could be real. Oliver, she shouted, voice cracking as the pulse of fear surged through her. First came the silence, then a giggle, clear and bright, but twisted a sound that did not belong in this abyss of night. It traced its way up through the air, familiar yet utterly foreign. On instinct, she moved toward it, hands shaking at her sides. Mommy, a soft voice called. Hannah sprinted toward the sound, her chest tightening with dread. The figure of her son appeared just beyond the line of trees, illuminated by the ghostly light of the moon. He stood there as still as a statue, eyes fixed on the lake. Oliver, she gasped, relief flooding her, but it evaporated in an instant. A flicker of shadow loomed above him, a disturbance rippling through the water. A short, jagged gasp ripped from her throat. As she reached him, Oliver turned, his face a mask of confusion. What is going on, Mom? For a moment, she could only stare into his wide eyes, searching for her son beneath an increasing sensation of wrongness. Why were you out here? She pulled him close, an anchor in the stormy night. Mom, listen. I heard the music. He trailed off, glancing back toward the lake. Entranced, the darkness rippled as if alive, a sea of teeth waiting to close in. What music? Hannah's voice trembled, but a gut feeling clawed inside her that there were no more answers, only entrapment. The pretty song. It wanted me. He looked back once more, loss flickering in his gaze. I want to go back. As he spoke, shapes stirred beneath the lake's surface, blurry forms weaving like shadows beneath the waves. The music wove in and out, pulling at her senses, drumming against her skull. No, we need to go, she exclaimed, panic boiling over. She clasped his hand tightly. As the faint laughter morphed into something distorted and guttural, a chorus of voices rising from deep within the water. Suddenly, Oliver jerked his hand away, eyes wide, and he took a step towards the lake. I want to stay. Her pulse quickened. A desperate lunge forward. She caught him just before he could break free. Cries of torment echoed, rising from the depths, drowning out everything around them. Mommy, he screamed. That cry sliced through the night, gripping her heart. It was suffocating. She felt dread consume her. I want to let you go, she gasped. But above them, the shape coalesced, a horrifying figure rising from the water, arms outstretched as though welcoming them into the abyss. With each second, a new threat eclipsed the space between them and the lifeline of escape. Mom, it's so beautiful, Oliver whispered, and in that moment, she realized the cost of the lake was rising. She could feel it tightening around her, an iron grip ready to crush them both. Run, she screamed, but the shadows began to close around her, the haunting laughter swelling. As she pulled fiercely at Oliver, a black wave crashed toward them, drowning her thoughts as the chorus of drowned souls enveloped the night. What did they desire? What truths lay buried beneath that water? As dawn's light began to erase the night, Hannah felt the weight of the lake's hunger against her. Would she uncover the truth before they were lost forever? Hannah's heart pounded as she yanked Oliver backward, the water's cold tendrils still lashing out, hungry for a taste. She felt the weight of unseen eyes surrounding her, the oppressive darkness pressing down, making every breath feel like a struggle. Stay with me, Oliver. She scanned the shadows, the twisted forms looming just beyond the tree line. It felt like an eternity would pass before dawn broke the spell of night. The laughter reverberated, clawing at her sanity, enveloping her in absolute horror. Mommy, please, Oliver begged. his little face pale and desperate. I want to go to them. No, you don't understand. She gripped his shoulders, shaking him slightly, panic rising within her. They're not who you think they are. The laughter surged again, drowning out her voice, wrapping around her like a velvet noose. Somewhere deep in her gut, dread coiled tightly. The lake's melody began to twist, forming sinister shapes that danced under the surface, beckoning, taunting. Oliver, she shrieked. We need to move. Just as she turned to flee, a new figure emerged from the water, glistening with droplets of liquid night, and it approached. It was humanoid, but wrong. Features twisted, eyes dark pools of hollowness that seemed to suck the light from the air around them, as if the creature had drawn the existence from life itself. Join us, its voice echoed, a chilling whisper that lingered in the air like a forgotten lullaby. Hannah felt something snap inside her. The invocation of that voice sent a ripple of terror through her bones. She pulled Oliver closer, her grip tightening as a primal instinct for survival surged through her. We need to go now, she said fiercely, turning away from the ghastly figure. Pulling Oliver with her, she ran deeper into the woods, breathing in jagged gasps. Each stride felt heavier, as though the ground was reaching up to hold them back. The trees loomed like guardians of despair, twisting and bending as if alive. Shadows flickered just beyond her vision, and every rustle sent tremors across her skin. She could hear the low thrumming of the lake behind them, like a heartbeat growing fainter and fainter with distance. Tears streamed down Oliver's cheeks as he struggled to keep up. Mom, I want to go home. Hannah's chest squeezed tighter at his words. We will, Oliver. Just stay close. But as they pressed onward, Hannah felt an unshakable sense of being pursued. The laughter had morphed into an insatiable wailing, like the cries of lost souls finding their way home, and it echoed through the trees. Suddenly, she caught sight of a faint glow in the distance, a faint flicker that resembled lights beckoning from her house. Energy surged. She began to sprint toward it, pulling Oliver along as they stumbled over roots and rocks. They pushed through the last of the trees into an open clearing, breathless. The house stood there menacingly, its windows dark, as if it had been waiting for them. The door loomed like a gaping mouth, promising safety, but hinting at something unseen lurking within. Mom, it's so dark inside, Oliver trembled. Hannah felt sick, torn between the darkness behind them and the uncertainty ahead. Just then, a chilling wind whipped around them, and the forest seemed to whisper her name, urging her back. Mom, Oliver cried, his voice shaking her from the trance. Let us go, she urged, clutching his hand tightly. They darted toward the door, the chorus of cries intensifying behind them. As they reached the entrance, the ground shook beneath them, the lake's pull growing once more. Shadows twisted into chaotic forms, creeping closer. I can't go back, Hannah gasped, flinging the door open. Inside, the stale air enveloped them, and she felt a cold certainty that something inside was waiting. The whispers twisted into a cacophony of despair, urging her to turn back, but the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening thud, sealing them into darkness. Mom, Oliver's voice quivered, fear slicing through the thick air. Hannah glanced around, sensing they were not alone anymore. Shapes flitted in the corners of her vision, lurking, hungry at that moment. She realized the lake wasn't the only thing that hungered. In the stillness, the house began to whisper, revealing secrets that were never meant to surface. What would they discover next? And would they be able to escape the grasp of darkness before it consumed them? The cold air hung thick in the house, wrapping around Hannah and Oliver like the tendrils of the lake. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting and stretching as if separated from the shapes that cast them. Silence loomed heavy, save for the distant echo of the outside world, a world that felt increasingly foreign. Mom, Oliver whispered again, his voice shaking. Hannah crouched down, meeting his wide, terrified eyes. We're okay, Oliver. Just remember, I'm here with you, she said, forcing calm into her voice even as her heart raced. But she felt it, that gnawing sensation in her gut. There was nothing okay about this place. Moving cautiously, she scanned the room. It felt like the house was holding its breath. Dust motes floated lazily in the slants of light spilling through the grimy windows, revealing the faded remnants of a life once lived here. The musty scent of decay permeated the air, urging her to cover her nose with her sleeve. As she stepped further inside, a whisper of wind brushed past her ear, indistinguishable yet haunting. She turned sharply, every hair on her body standing on end. The darkness felt alive, threaded with stagnant whispers that held the promise of secrets too dreadful to bear. "Mom, I don't like it here." Oliver's voice rose, a tremor lacing through his words. "Me neither," she admitted softly. "But we have to find a way out. We can't go back." They moved toward the living room, which looked like it had been frozen in time. An old, wooden rocking chair creaked eerily, shifting slightly as if welcoming them into its embrace. Hannah felt a chill skate down her spine. She stepped closer, heart racing. "Look," Oliver pointed, voice barely above a whisper. In the corner, half hidden beneath a layer of dust, a framed photo hung crookedly. It was a family, a mother, father, and 3 children smiling, oblivious to the darkness lurking just beneath their glossy smiles. A sudden crack echoed from somewhere within the house. Hannah snapped her head around, pulse quickening. "Did you hear that?" Yeah, Oliver's voice trembled as wide eyes searched the shadows. Before she could respond, the floor creaked beneath them as if someone else was moving, somewhere deep within the house. Hannah felt a rush of adrenaline. "We need to go," she urged, glancing back at the door still firmly shut. In the kitchen, the faintest trace of whispered voices drifted through the air. It wasn't the harmonious laughter of joy, but a troubling murmur, an angry chorus that gnawed at her mind. Each word was indistinct, but she felt their weight like stones being dropped into her stomach. "Mom, I'm scared." Oliver pressed close against her leg, his small fingers digging into her thigh, grounding her to the moment, keeping her from unraveling. "Me too, baby," she confessed. Then she caught sight of it, a faint glow peeking from under a door at the end of the corridor, pulsating like a heartbeat. Compelled by an instinct she couldn't explain, she hurried toward it, dragging Oliver along. As they reached for the knob, a sudden surge of cold air slammed against them, rattling the door as if it were alive, hungry. "Mom, wait!" Oliver screamed, pulling back. She hesitated. Fear screamed in her mind, but they had come this far. "We have to see what's in there." With a deep breath, she gripped the handle and twisted. The door swung open, revealing a room bathed in soft, ghostly light. In the center stood an ornate mirror, its frame twisted with faces that seemed to weep and wail. The surface of the glass shimmered, showing reflections of people no longer there, exactly like the family in the picture. "Mom, I don't want to look." Oliver's voice faded. The whispers intensified, scratching at the edges of her mind, pulling her closer. "Oliver, go!" But before they could step back, the mirror rippled like water. A face emerged, eyes dark as the depths of the lake, searching, hungry. "Join us," it crooned, and Hannah felt her resolve start to crumble, her will slipping as she took a step forward. Then she froze, caught between a world of chilling resonance and the suffocating warmth of her son beside her. Could she wrestle back control in time? The whisper twisted, slithering into her thoughts, and in that moment, she knew they might never see the dawn again. The lake was calling, but this time, so was the heart of the house. Would they drown in its secrets, or resist the pull long enough to escape? Hannah stood rooted, caught in a storm of shadow and light, unable to pull away from the mirror's grasp. The face that emerged twisted into a smile, sickly sweet and unsettling. It beckoned with a finger, a gesture both inviting and threatening. "Join us," it whispered again, and the voice resonated in her core, vibrating with temptation even as dread washed over her. "Mom." Oliver's voice broke through the haze. He tugged at her sleeve, his small body trembling. "Don't listen, please." His fear snapped her back to reality. She blinked hard, the reflection distorting, the other faces writhing, desperate. In that moment, she remembered the grainy photos, the lives snuffed out, gone but not forgotten. This house was a trap, a hungry maw ready to devour their souls. "Come on." She yanked Oliver away from the mirror, wrenching him past the threshold into the cold hallway. The murmur of voices behind them grew fainter, but the weight pressing against her chest remained. They ran, feet pounding on the wooden floor, frantic breaths echoing in the stale air, racing toward the sunlight that seemed like a distant dream at the end of the corridor. Hannah yearned for its warmth, but shadows clawed at them from every angle, flickering just out of the corner of her eyes. "Mom, where do we go?" Oliver gasped, fear and exhaustion pooling in his voice. Hannah's heart raced faster. "We need to find a way out anywhere, but here." As they neared the front door, it swung shut with a deafening thud, rattling the very core of her sanity. The walls of the house closed in, vibrant with secrets tethered to their essence. The whispers crescendoed, echoing with rage, their hunger now palpable. "No, no." Panic surged through Hannah. She grabbed the handle and twisted, but the door refused to budge. Oliver's small cries erupted behind her as he grasped the doorknob, his fingers trembling. In the kitchen, Hannah shouted, and they dashed back through the shadows of the house, the heart racing with every thud of their footsteps against the wooden floors, each pulse against the walls an urgency that felt unnatural. They skidded into the kitchen, breathless. But what they found sent a chill rippling through Hannah's veins. Hidden in the corner, there stood another door, nearly invisible behind a peeling cupboard. It glimmered with the same soft light as the mirror, but now it felt both inviting and sinister, as if it had a will of its own. "What if it's like the other one?" Oliver's small voice broke, still clinging to her side. "We can't stay here," Hannah bit out, desperation lending strength to her voice. "We have to try." At that moment, the house groaned, the walls shifting almost as though alive. Dark shadows gathered, pooling on the floor like ink spilled on paper, creeping closer, stretching out toward them. A cold drift tangled around her ankles, urging them forward. She reached for the handle, knuckles whitening. "On the count of 3, we open it together," Hannah said. 1, 2, 3. They yanked the door open together, a grotesque light spilling out like a flood. But what lay beyond was a nightmare staircase descending into nothingness, dark and endless. Voices whispered through the depths, familiar yet twisted, an echo of those lost before them. "Mom." Oliver trembled, his small body pressed tightly against hers. She felt it, that deep-seated sensation creeping back. The house wanted them, wanted to pull them into its sickening embrace, to join the ranks of the forgotten. Heart pounding, she knew they could either descend into the darkness or fight back. "Whatever's down there, we have to face it together," she said, 2 steps away from the abyss. There was no turning back. Now did they have the strength? As they descended, the whispering escalated, the air thickened, and Hannah felt the house groan beneath their weight. A promise hidden beneath the surface beckoned them forward, whispering sweet temptations full of terror. Did they dare enter the depths? Or would it be the end of everything? Inside the darkened staircase, every step seemed to consume light, pulling the warmth from Hannah's body. "I can't." Oliver's voice was a mere whisper, fragile and trembling. The shadows swirled like a living entity at their feet, slithering and flowing into the depths below. "We don't have a choice," Hannah said, pulling her son tightly to her side. Her heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the whispers that danced around them. They edged forward, their breath shallow and quick, each step echoing with an eerie hollowness that made Hannah's skin crawl. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, a biting chill that gnawed at their bones. The walls seemed to pulse, throbbing with every heartbeat, resonating with the tormenting whispers that dribbled into their ears. Were the voices getting louder? Or was it her imagination? The descent seemed endless, stretching beyond the confines of reality. "Mom." Oliver yelped suddenly, his small hand clutching hers like a vice. "Did you see that?" Hannah turned to where he pointed. At the edge of the dim light, a shadow flickered, darting back from their line of sight, almost tauntingly. A brief image of a face flashed, hollow eyes, twisted features. She blinked and it was gone. "Focus on my voice, Oliver," she said, trying to steady herself as much as him. But her own heart filled with dread. The further they went, the more the shadows stretched to mimic human shapes, haunting silhouettes that watched them, waiting. "Mom." Oliver trembled, staring at the staircase beneath him. "What if we can't get back?" "Stay close," Hannah urged, fear gnawing at her resolve. They were now at the bottom, where the ground shifted, no longer solid beneath their feet. The air was thick with an oppressive energy, a malevolence that seeped into their very bones. That eye in front of them, a vast open chamber lay engulfed in darkness. Flickers of movement danced beyond the edge of their dwindling light, whispers intensifying, echoing chilling sentiments of longing and grief. "Help us. Join us." Hannah gripped Oliver's hand tighter, feeling a surge of determination. They were not alone, and she knew the fear that had seeped into her heart was a weapon. "Whatever dreams lay in this darkness, they can't keep us. We will fight," she declared, though she could feel the vibrations of uncertainty in her own voice. They moved forward cautiously into the void. A cold gust rushed past them, carrying with it the scent of decay, a bitter reminder of the victims lost in this forgotten realm. "Mom," Oliver yelled, panic creeping into his voice. "I can't hear you." "Stay with me, Oliver," she screamed back, the shadows closing in, melding and twisting around them. They were hungry. How she wished for the warmth of the sun, the fresh air outside, far from the chains of this cursed house. The chamber began to pulse as if alive, the air heavy with unspoken horror. "What do you want?" Hannah cried out into the dark. "Give yourself," a chorus of voices echoed back, chilling her to the bone. "Become one of us." The walls trembled, and Hannah felt the ground beneath her quaking. "No," she shouted, surprising herself. "We are not yours." But as she spoke, the ground cracked open, and horrific faces surged forth from the chasm, grasping shadows hungry for flesh. "We will taste your fear," they hissed with many voices, inching closer with every word as the darkness threatened to swallow her whole. "Run, Oliver, run," she screamed, feeling the darkness tighten around her like a noose. They turned to escape, but the shadows shifted, blocking their path back. Trapped and surrounded by the echoes of the lost, Hannah felt desperation clawing at her mind. With the darkness closing in, the chamber seemed to pulse, but as terror gripped her heart, an eerie luminescence flickered above. Was it an exit? Or a trick of the house? "Mom, we have to go up." Oliver's voice was sharp, cutting through the tenebrous veil as he pointed toward the light. But what if that light wasn't salvation? What if it led them deeper into the trap? Hannah paused, her heart racing, knowing they had won. Chance left: either ascend into the unknown or be consumed by the whispers forever. The decision loomed before them: trust in the flickering light or risk the ravenous shadows. Which path would they take? Would it lead to freedom or doom? Hannah's heart raced as she stood in the dim glow. The light flickered like a candle in a tempest, swaying, teasing her to come closer. Oliver's grip on her hand was painfully tight, his eyes wide, filled with dread and expectation. "Mom, what if it's a way out?" he whispered, hope threading through his voice. "Or a way in," Hannah murmured, the words catching in her throat like a splinter. The shadows writhed at the edges of the chamber, their forms shifting and coiling tighter, almost blocking the way they had come. "Get ready," she warned, knowing that every fraction of a second counted. They had to make a decision. If they stayed too long, they might never leave. In one breath, she steeled herself, heart pounding against her ribcage as she called out to the flickering light, "We're coming." Taking a leap of faith, she pulled Oliver close and stepped forward, the shadows recoiling slightly with every stride. The light grew stronger, beckoning them, illuminating faces trapped beyond the veil, faces filled with agony, eyes wide with despair. They whispered desperately, their voices bleeding into her mind like an unending chant of sorrow. "Join us, we will show you." "Stop it," Hannah yelled, shaking her head as though she could physically block out the tears from their eyes. Each voice gripped her with cold fingers, clawing at her sanity. "Mom, I don't like this," Oliver pleaded, his small voice breaking through her resolve. In that moment of hesitation, the light brightened into a searing glare. Hannah shielded her eyes, feeling an invisible force press against her chest, urging her backward. "Oliver, close your eyes. Trust me," she shouted. With a surge of adrenaline, she grabbed him and sprinted toward the light, the shadows hissing and shrieking behind her. The air vibrated with a noise that rattled her bones, as if the very structure of the chamber was alive and furious. Just as they burst through the threshold, pain lanced through her hand. "No," she cried, looking down to see a shadowy tendril grasping Oliver's ankle, pulling him back into the abyss. "Hannah!" he yelled, terror filling his voice like a storm. Panic surged through her as she struggled against the pull, the light ahead blinding like a sun breaking through the dark. "No!" she screamed, lunging forward with all her strength. With one swift movement, she yanked Oliver free, feeling the dark energy gripping him snap like a brittle strand. They tumbled into the light, landing hard on the cold stone floor. For a moment, everything was silent. The oppressive weight lifted, the whispers fading, replaced by the pounding of their own hearts in their ears. Hannah looked around, a dizzying swirl of colors darting into view. They were in another chamber smaller, with stone walls glistening like sweat under the light. But the warmth didn't chase away the chilling sensation of being watched. "Where are we, Mom?" Oliver asked, his voice small and shaky. "I don't know," Hannah replied, looking around, her pulse still racing. The walls seemed to close in around them, echoes of past screams carrying on the wind. A chill swept through her, sending shivers down her spine, as she caught sight of something ahead, a doorway, its edges fraying with dark energy. With terror gripping her insides, deeper dread threatened to surface. "Please, let it be a way out," she whispered, but the door stood ominously silent. As they approached, shadows crawled across the surface, whispering unintelligible taunts. The air thickened, pressure mounting until it felt like a vice around her chest. "Mom, we have to go back," Oliver whimpered. "Back to the darkness?" she said incredulously. "Never. We can't." "Then what do we do?" Hannah looked into the gloom beyond the door. Hope seemed distant, and fear pressed heavy on her chest. "We find out what lies beyond," she stated, forcing herself to sound brave, despite her trembling hands. But as she reached for the door, it creaked open slowly, and a dark figure emerged, its hollow eyes locking onto hers with a hunger that felt all too familiar. "What do you want?" Hannah stammered, every instinct screaming to run. "Welcome," it croaked, voice dripping with malice. Back to the darkness. Hannah's breath hitched in her throat. They had only just escaped, but now they were facing the unknown once more. "Oliver," she whispered, the dread returning with a vengeance. Would they fight this new horror, or would they be swallowed whole? The shadows stirred again, coiling with intent as the figure advanced, and Hannah knew they had to decide, to choose once more. What awaited them behind that doorway could change everything or end it all. The figure loomed closer, an oppressive presence that filled the small chamber. Hannah's heart thundered in her chest, each beat echoing the dread that surged through her veins. Its hollow eyes bore into her, and the air felt thick and suffocating. "Stay behind me, Oliver," she snapped, clenching her jaw. The shadows danced sinisterly around the figure, illuminating its long, bony fingers that twisted unnaturally. It seemed almost to unfurl, its shape undulating like dark smoke, ready to swallow them whole. But even as she spoke, fear clawed at her mind. What if they were trapped? What if the escape had only brought them deeper into the nightmare? The figure took a step forward, and with it, the whispers intensified, swirling around them like a cyclone of despair. "We are many," it breathed, the sound grating against her nerves. "You're not alone anymore. You will join us, willingly or not." "Mom, we have to go back." Oliver pulled at her skirt, eyes wide with terror. Tears brimmed in his gaze as he glanced back toward the door they had just passed through. "Please." But there was no way back. All Hannah could hear was the chaos of shadows behind them, waiting to trap them again. "We can't go back, Oliver. We can't." The words spilled out in desperation. "We have to find a way through this." Drained from the battle of hope and fear, she felt a pulse of anger mix with determination. "What do you want from us?" she demanded, squaring her shoulders against the malevolence closing in on them. The figure paused, tilting its head, as though considering her. "To help you. To show you the truth." Its voice twisted, dripping with false kindness. "You long to know. You yearn for what lies beyond." Oliver squeezed her hand tight, grounding her in the rising tide of madness. "Tell me it isn't true, Mom," he begged, his voice shaking. Hannah's thoughts raced. What truth? The legends of missing people, the stories of the cursed past whispered in her childhood, the reason they never explored the woods around the lake house. Memories spilled into her mind like a torrent. Panic surged. "No, no more. Join us," the figure urged again, extending its skeletal hand towards them. "You must embrace what you fear. Let it in. It will offer you freedom from your helplessness." Hadn't they learned that embracing darkness only led to ruin? With a swift motion, Hannah gripped Oliver tighter, steeling herself against the creature's chill. "We are not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice cracking but resolute. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled as if stung, swirling violently, the dark figure staggering back, revealing an opening barely visible, yet glowing faintly with an ethereal light. "Run, Oliver, run," she shouted, pulling him toward the beckoning light, which now felt like a lifeline. The shadows howled, echoing with rage, seeking to reclaim their lost prey as they fled towards the light. Hannah felt a cold breath grazing her neck, sharp and warning. The figure's voice thundered, "You cannot escape your truth. You will return with me." With each frantic stride, the threshold loomed larger, beckoning them closer. But a terrible realization hit her. What lay beyond might not be the salvation they hoped for. Was it another trap, or an offering of something insidious? Just as they reached the edge, a gust of cold air swept through, sending Oliver tumbling, his grasp slipping from her hand. "No!" Hannah screamed, reaching for him as he was drawn back into the vortex of darkness, the light flickering like a heartbeat behind her. "Mom!" Oliver's cry echoed, swallowed by the shadows. Hannah felt an icy claw grip her heart. She had to choose: pull him back to safety and risk the darkness, or push him through and trust the light would lead them out. "Oliver!" she cried one last time, desperate and trembling. The figure's twisted smile spread wider as it approached. "You will join us, one way or another." What lay ahead could either sever their connection or ensnare them forever. Would she have the strength to confront her own truth, or would darkness claim them both? The light flickered uncertainly, casting ghostly shadows that danced along the dim walls of the chamber. Hannah's heart raced as she fought against the cold grip that threatened to ensnare her. Panic swirled in her chest like a storm, drowning out her reason. Oliver's terrified face was slipping from her grasp, eyes wide and pleading, but she couldn't let go. "Hold on, Oliver," she screamed, lunging forward, but the darkness tugged at him, an insatiable force dragging him back. His small frame twisted in terror as he fought against the shadows snaking around him. "Mom!" he shouted, the raw desperation in his voice slicing through the oppressive air. It cut deeper than the whispers that filled her ears, churning her stomach with each syllable. The figure loomed behind Oliver, its elongated limbs stretching out, ready to snatch him from her. The opening to the light shimmered but felt impossibly far now, as if the very fabric of reality had shifted, pressing in on them from all sides. "Let him go," she demanded, the words propelled by rage. "You have no power over us. She holds the light, but you hold the choice," the figure hissed, its voice slithering into her mind, insidious and suffocating. "You must face the truth. Introduce him to our family." Hannah's vision narrowed as she focused on Oliver. She couldn't lose him. Not now, not like this. The darkness roared around them, infusing desperation into every corner of her mind. Memories of laughter, joy, and warmth flickered like distant stars before her, the life they had shared and the love that anchored her. "Mom, please," Oliver cried, and his voice was the lifeline that snapped her into action. Without thinking, she let go of the light and dashed forward, arms outstretched. She hurled herself against the shadow that ensnared him, breaking its hold for just a fleeting moment. "Grab my hand," she yelled, throat raw with fear. Their fingers brushed, but the figure lunged forward, slamming its body into Hannah, staggering her back. The breath escaped her lungs, replaced by a torrent of dread. "Help him embrace the dark," it whispered through a twisted grin, pulling Hannah down into the abyss. "Join us, find your truth." But Hannah's heart flashed with fierceness. The truth? The hurt? No, she would not succumb. Not to this. "Oliver, hold on. I love you," she screamed, just as she felt the chilling pull of darkness closing in on her. She knew what she had to do. With all her strength, she released a guttural cry of defiance and surged forward, reaching for the single glimmer of light left between them, inviting Oliver, containing the promise of freedom and the heat of their bond. That in one desperate moment, she lunged again and felt his hand slipping into hers, connected, alive. The shadows shrieked, their cries rising like a fever, screeching in agony as she pulled him toward the light. The darkness rolled back as if it was being scalded, retreating from her defiance. But just as they reached the luminous threshold, an icy hand gripped Hannah's ankle. She fell forward, heart racing, and the last glimpse of the figure sent a shiver down her spine. Its voice rang clear. "You cannot escape your truth." Hannah yanked with sheer desperation, determined to break the bond. The threshold poured its warmth around them, but the figure howled in fury and the grip on her ankle tightened, dragging her back toward the shrieking void. "Mom!" Oliver's voice broke her concentration, and in that critical instant, she saw the light shift. Mists of shadow clawed at the edges of her vision, but the glimmer of hope pulled at her core. With a final, desperate heave, Hannah cried out into the depths, "No, I will save you." In one last effort, she surged upward, with Oliver's hand clasped tightly in hers. The shadows screeched louder, a sound that rattled her bones, but she pressed through the pain, through the fear, and plunged forward into a reality she couldn't foresee. As the boundary between light and dark burst open, she collapsed forward, Oliver still in tow, fearing what lay beyond. But she did not look back. Not now, not ever again. Suddenly, the world around them shifted, and they stumbled into a hallway filled with echoes, a long, dim corridor where laughter lingered like a residue of happiness. "Where are we?" Oliver asked, his voice small and vulnerable, yet a flicker of hope danced in his eyes. Hannah froze, dread prickling her skin. The air was different here, laden with memories she had tried to bury. Creaky laughter echoed, the familiar sounds wrapping around them, both comforting and terrifying. What had she led them into? This was no safe haven. She stepped forward, drawn into the darkness ahead, unsure of the direction they faced. But one thing was certain, the truth awaited them. And she had no idea how close the darkness was, watching, waiting. Would they find solace, or had they merely entered another layer of a nightmare that would never end? Hannah stood in that dim corridor, dread pooling in her gut. The remnants of laughter faded like pale ghosts, whispering memories she longed to forget. Holding Oliver's hand, she felt both the warmth of their bond and the chill of unresolved truths. "We're okay, sweetie," she said softly, though her heart raced in uncertainty. What if it's all a trick? Worry etched itself across Oliver's small face. "We'll figure it out together." Her voice held a steadiness she didn't entirely feel, but they were both too far gone to turn back. They pressed forward. With each step, the air grew thicker, colder. Hannah felt the shadows grazing her skin, urging her to look back at all she had lost and the weight of what she carried. Images flashed before her eyes, fleeting yet heavy. Her father's face, the secrets, the lake, the figure in the depths not knowing what he had done. She shook her head, trying to clear it. "Mom." Oliver's small voice broke through her thoughts. "What if we don't find a way out? Then we'll make our own way." Her words were fierce, fueled by the surge of love and protectiveness for her son. But doubt crept in. Hadn't so many before them tried and failed? Breaking through the thick silence, they reached the end of the corridor. There, an ancient door loomed, a relic aged with time, glowing faintly. "This has to be it," Hannah breathed, adrenaline spiking. "It looks like a way out." They exchanged a look, steel and softness intermingling in their gazes. Together, they pushed against the door, groaning as it creaked open. Beyond it lay a vast open space, a shimmering lake caught in an eternal twilight, much like the one they had left behind. "What is this place?" Oliver asked, eyes round with wonder and fear. As they stepped out, shadows danced at the edges, but the water was still and inviting, casting reflections of memories long buried. Figures flickered along the shoreline, those who were lost, caught in the longing for something just beyond their reach. "Look," Hannah pointed, her voice trembling as she recognized some faces, spirits caught between worlds. "There, trapped." Suddenly, Oliver took a step forward, mesmerized. "I think they want us to join them," he said, all mixed with fear. Hannah felt a jolt of panic. "No, we don't belong here." She reached for her son, tightening her grip around his wrist. "We have to stay together." The water rippled, its surface shifting between light and shadow. Whispers flowed like water, beckoning. "Join us, it's beautiful here, you will understand." The voices of the lost sang, a haunting melody filling the air. "Mom, I want to listen." Oliver's eyes glimmered with a yearning she couldn't understand. "Oliver, don't." Hannah cried out, her own heart aching at his innocence. They might not be who they seem. But as she spoke, a chill swept over them. The shadows swirled tighter, rising with furious intent, their hunger palpable. You will join us, one way or another, the shadows hissed, the figures in the water shifting violently. In that moment, Hannah lunged toward Oliver, pulling him close. You listen to me. We're leaving. Now. She felt the darkness clawing at them, desperately trying to hold them back. No, I want to stay, Oliver yelled, tears streaming down his cheeks. Mommy, please. Look at me. Hannah commanded, her voice raw. We are stronger than this. Don't you dare let them take you. She held his face firmly in her hands, forcing him to meet her gaze. For a heartbeat, the shadows hesitated, their whispers faltering as light spilled from the depths of Hannah's resolve. We love each other, remember? We are stronger than any darkness. As if triggered by her words, a bright light exploded from her chest. The shadows recoiled, their forms melting away in the brilliance of their bond, and the lake quivered but did not swallow them. Their shared love became a shield, a barrier against the all-consuming grip of the lake. Mom, is it working? The raw fear in Oliver's voice echoed in her heart. Yes, just hold on, she shouted, surging forward toward the receding shadows. With each step, the warmth of their connection grew, enveloping them in a protective embrace. The world around them trembled, the lost spirits dissolving into the fading echoes of hopes unfulfilled. They ran, sprinting toward the warmth. As they reached the end of the lake, the light burst forth into a blinding radiance, wrapping them tightly. The whispers turned to shrieks, fading into the distance as time unfurled, and then silence. They stumbled through the brightness, collapsing onto solid ground. The sun blazed overhead, the trees bright and alive, the lake behind them shimmering innocently. Hannah gasped, looking around at the beauty surrounding them. Did we make it? Oliver's voice was soft, almost hopeful. Hannah scooped him into her arms, cradling him close, tears spilling down her cheeks. We did, my love. We did. The weight of their journey surged through her, yet in his embrace, clarity blossomed. They had not only escaped, they had confronted their fears and emerged victorious. Together, they would forge a new path, leaving shadows behind. Hand in hand, they turned away from the haunted lake, sealing their past in the whispers of the pines behind them as they walked. Hannah knew though the memories might haunt them, they would never again be prisoners of darkness. So they stepped forward, into the sunlight, knowing that their love would guide them home. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this intense ending. And instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.